Hello and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode, I'm going to be discussing the 1998 sports comedy BASEketball, if I've said that right, starring the creators of none other than South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and is directed by the veteran of zany comedy, David Zucker. So, Parker and Stone, they play layabouts Joe Cooper and Doug Reamer, respectively. And, you know, this I actually did have to look up because I can never remember which one is actually which. But two best friends, anyway, who have dreamed of making it big in the world of sport since they were little kids. But now often just kind of dreaming of making it to the fridge for a cold one. Anyway, they end up uninvited at a reunion party with their classmates from high school, who all seem to be doing much better than them. So, feeling the pressure, they agree to a game of basketball. However, upon realising that their opponents are far superior to them, they instantly come up with a more street version of the game, BASEketball, a sort of cross between basketball and baseball. It is right up their street, sort of the kind of lazy man's version of a sport, you know? Or the lazy everyman, that's what I want to say, the lazy everyman's version of a sport. But noble in that you don't need to be a first-class athlete to play. And soon what started as kind of a way to stand a chance of winning a game against the class jocks starts to kind of a cult following, which then quickly kind of snowballs into the game going pro. In no time at all, the game amasses its own league and teams across the United States, but with strict rules on swapping players and commercialisation of the sport to keep it for the fans and the players. But the owner of a rival team has other plans. Tycoon billionaire Baxter Kane, as played by Robert Vaughn, wants to increase revenues basically by letting advertisers into the game and add team and player sponsorships, against the ideals of Cooper, who ends putting the beers on the line and his friendship with Reamer to stop Kane from destroying the game that he loves. So, now this film, it has taken its kind of fair share of bashing over time. It is a bit of an acquired taste. I mean, Parker and Stone, they have a very distinct way about them, you know? Let's say, you know, which of course comes out in droves in their flagship animation, South Park. And indeed, that is a show that is not everybody's cup of tea. And that's probably an understatement when all's said and done. However, I'm not exactly a fan of everything that the pair do. I think they are a little bit too off the cuff sometimes, you know, and indeed, they are quite weird, for me at least. But I'm not going to lie. They can also crack me up, you know. They've got that kind of polarising kind of comedy that I find kind of appealing to some extent. But what I would say about this movie is that you can really tell it is a hybrid of comedy styles between both the duo of Parker and Stone and indeed Zucker. It doesn't always work, and there are more than a few misses, but I have got to say that when it does, it really is a blast, you know? I would suggest that if you're not keen on South Park and the other works of the duo, then I would probably give this film a miss. But if you're into it and you don't mind some of Zucker's other works as well, such as the Naked Gun series and those in the Scary Movie franchise that he directed, 3 and 4, then I think you would really actually get a kick out of this movie if you, of course, haven't seen it already. It's not the cleanest of comedies, it's not the cleverest of comedies, you know, but in actual fact, it's not the most crass that I've ever seen either, and it's not as crass as it could have been coming from this team, you know. It is actually kind of more of a tone down than even certain episodes of South Park that I've seen, you know? But at least, on the same token, I think the presence of Parker and Stone kind of helped tone down Zucker's style as well, you know? You kind of can see that Parker and Stone certainly had their way with this one. And I do believe that even Zucker admitted that they did indeed offer numerous suggestions which were kind of absorbed and incorporated throughout, and that is so very clear in this movie. But in saying that, I can't say it isn't lewd, crude and rude, because that's exactly what it is, you know, in its entirety. And to be fair, it kind of plays out a little bit like a lad's mag, you know, if you kind of know what I mean. Let's just say that there doesn't seem to be any females playing in this sport, you know. Cheerleading, for sure. It isn't overly lecherous, but it's not going to win any awards for sensitivity towards women either, you know? But it doesn't mean any harm, I don't think. And that's not the vibe that I do get from it. It's just their style through and through. They're kind of a bit like adult versions of Beavis and Butthead, aren't they? You know? Like a couple of hormone-infested teenagers. And then when you kind of throw Zucker into the mix, well, they're just a total pair of loons. And whilst I don't actually think the comedy always works here, it does come thick and fast. The movie never really lets up, and you can see that they've kind of put a lot of effort into making as many of the jokes as relevant as possible, which does kind of result in some pretty good one-liners, you know, amongst the chaff, and some pretty decent observational and situational comedy centred around the commercialisation of sport, which is the kind of the main theme in the film. I mean, the game itself, you know, it makes absolutely no sense. It is practically nonsense. Although I do actually believe it's something that Zucker came up with for real. Still, you know, by the end of the movie, I still hadn't got a clue what was going on. And all I know is that it looks great fun and doesn't require you to move too much. Almost the sort of game you could play from your sofa. My kind of game. Quite a lot of the comedy does rely on stereotyping. To put it bluntly, to put it bluntly, or more to the point, no state is safe. You know, I don't think, again, it means too much harm in this respect, but it is a consideration. It's certainly akin to the usual fare that you get with a comedy such as this, and certainly, you know, as I say, certainly their usual kind of fare. And that's the thing. In terms of plot, to be quite fair, you know, the creation of the BASEketball game adds kind of a unique twist. But I must say the rest is fairly generic. You know, a romance, a bust-up, rivalry, and then to win the race to the big end game that looks out of reach, needing a miracle and a rallying team moment. In this, it is very predictable. That I must admit. But a strong plot isn't really what this film's about. One thing I do like is the references to Parker and Stone's other works at the time, and particularly, of course, like I've mentioned, South Park, of which one there is. It's simply awesome. But after reading up on the movie and thinking back to some of the classic South Park episodes I have watched, I did find that they have kind of this epiphany moment when, I had one. I don't know if they did, but I had an epiphany moment when I realised quite a lot of the phrases and the output from the film, including its bad review by Roger Ebert, and indeed how the film was generally received at the time, are indeed in the show in various throwbacks. And I think that kind of does speak volumes for Parker and Stone, to be fair. The kind of vibe you get. You might not like their comedy, or indeed how they make fun of others, but they're not above taking a joke, you know, criticism, or indeed making fun of themselves. They're kind of harsh when they dish back out, but it's all rolled up into this comedy kind of symbol or escapade that they have. Overall, this is a gross-out comedy that mixes in Parker and Stone's brand of crass with the visual and kind of zany styles of Zucker, you know. It doesn't always work, like I've said, and it can be a bit extreme and nonsensical. But for me, I do still find it side-splittingly funny. I'm not going to lie. I don't mind some of Parker and Stone's comedy, and I have definitely enjoyed many of Zucker's previous works. Put it this way, these kind of films are absolutely a great way to unwind after a stressful day with some fantastic observational and situational humour, you know? Plenty of well-placed slapstick and background David Zucker-style gags. You definitely don't need to engage your brain, you know? And that's sometimes what's wrong in a film like that. There are indeed far superior sports comedies out there. Dodgeball springs to mind. It's certainly not anybody's best work in this respect. I think even Trey, Parker and Stone have done a lot better works sort of earlier on. But this one, for me, still gives a good punch, you know? I honestly can't really put my finger on why I do like this film as much as I do. You know, it is fairly bad. I think it's just one of those guilty pleasures in terms of movies, you know? You know it's bad, but you just can't help yourself. Or at least I can't, you know? I have tremendous fun with it. That's it. It's not great. It's not all in the best of tastes, but it's that kind of stupid with a distinct energy, you know, that you can really appreciate. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you here at SciFirst Movie Talk, and would definitely love to have you back. But most of all, just thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye.